Hello again out there to all of our Hidden Pearl podcast fans, friends, and followers. We thank you very much for paying attention and being willing to dial us in every week or when we post. So thank you very much for that. Bruce Kittle here, coming at you again on June 28th. It's a Monday in the year of 2021 with another Mindful Monday. So just want to offer a couple things. This last week, I was listening to a podcast with on the 10% Happier app. If you're not familiar with that, it's a meditation app, much like Calm and some of those. But anyway, Dan Harris is on it. He's been been broadcasting for a long time, but he is doing this thing now. And they talk about mindfulness and all that. So a little shout out to those guys. But on June 21 last week, they had Leslie Booker on. She is what they call Dharma coach, meditator, yogi, all that kind of stuff. She was talking about, they're doing a series on anxiety. If you haven't listened to it or curious about that, it's really good. But she talked about a couple of things in that, and I just wanted to use this as a framework for something over the next few weeks. So she talked about the 3 characteristics of suffering. And so there's some other kind of fancy words I can't pronounce to describe them, but the basic 3 characteristics, and I'm just going to take one each week and just talk briefly about them. And I encourage you to maybe look them up. The first one is that nothing is permanent. The second one is nothing is perfect. And the third one is nothing is personal. So we'll kind of dive into each one of those. We've kind of talked about some of those things, but this week I want to talk about nothing being permanent. So there's 2 kind of pieces of that I think are really important to understand. And the first one about not being permanent is just our mortality, right? So this whole notion of life and death and the reality that at some point we will die. So the Stoics talk about this a lot, about keeping death in mind. And when we do, just have an awareness of it, not in a dreading kind of, oh my gosh, kind of thing, but in a realistic appreciation. It gives us kind of a different perspective on the life that we do have, that we can see and appreciate maybe the moments that we have, the sunsets and the sun rises in the mountains and whatever it is, and the people in our lives and the little special moments that come to us as humans and our interconnectedness with others. So it gives us a greater appreciation of those things, and we might be able to kind of just take a pause and spend a little bit more time in that moment, not rushing to the end, because it's the process and the journey that really matters. So that's kind of part 1. Part 2 is that really the good news is that nothing's permanent, and the bad news is that nothing's permanent, right? So Nat Han has a quote that he says, it is not impermanence that makes us suffer. What makes us suffer is wanting things to be permanent when they are not. So when things are going well, and with our family and with loved ones and all kinds of stuff, we have all these notions that we don't want it to ever change. And when we cling to what must change, what will change, everything changes, then that is kind of the notion where we create our own suffering. So, but that is the good news, because on the one hand, or that's, I guess you could say bad news, but it's just a reality that things will change. We will age, but like a daughter who grows up, we may really appreciate the childhood, but if she doesn't grow up into womanhood and, I guess, for example, maybe gets married and has a birth, and then there's a grandchild. And so if things didn't change and evolve, we would never have the joy of experiencing that. So yes, things all change. But it's also the good news. And so sometimes we have thoughts and feelings that we struggle with. We have pain that we are enduring. And to the extent that we are able to kind of let go of that, which is part of the meditative and mindful process, that is the good news, that these things will pass. So whatever we feel about it or whatever we think about it, really, it will pass if we just give it time and give it some space. If we can disentangle from it, let it separate and let it float by. So just an encouragement about that. So I want to close with one of my favorite quotes by one of my favorite comedians, Gilda Radner, taken from us way too early. She says, "Some stories don't have a clear beginning, middle, or an end. Life is about not knowing, having to change, taking the moment and making the best of it without knowing what's going to happen next. Delicious ambiguity." Now, I know that will drive some of you completely crazy, but there's kind of a freshness to that I really vibe with. And so here's to this next week, appreciating the unknown, the uncertainties, the ambiguities in your life, and trusting that whatever it is that needs to pass will pass. Have a great week out there, Hidden Pearl Podcast fans, friends, and followers. We're thinking of you always. And if you like what we're doing, scroll down and maybe give us a little bit of a like and a review. We'd love to hear from you. So send us a note. All right. Take care. Have a great week.